and welcome to Doctor Who Radio Show. That's the way it goes, and this is
King Doctor 82. Good to be here, Dave.
And this is yet again both a preview and review. Part 1 is the preview, part 2 is the review, and the episode, of course, is Nightmare in Silver, the return of Neil Gaiman to Doctor Who. And should be an interesting one. So, really, sort of rearranging and reinventing the Cybermen, isn't it?
That it is, yes. It'll be interesting to see Neil Gaiman's spin on a very, very old nemesis.
Once again it was actually Moffat, apparently, according to Wikipedia, who asked him to make the Cybermen more scary.
Of course.
Particularly in line with, Moonbase and Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yes.
Because I think it's fair to say that, just like the series itself, the Cybermen sort of, bit by bit, through the years, became less threatening. Just like the series went from doing Dark Shadows type filming in the black and white 60s, the early 70s, late 70s, and by the 80s was doing a sort of soap opera type thing, and the same with the Cybermen. It was less case of them coming out of the shadows and them being more like Star Wars maybe.
Coming through doors like the Stormtroopers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Stormtroopers. Sort of military uniform rather than tubes coming out of the bodies and looking like they were literally put together. Now this also features Dr. G, the sort of retirement, if you like, of the Russell T Davies Cybermen. What do you think of that?
In essence, I don't have a problem with that, but at the same time, I'd still like them to get some type of recognition going forward. I mean, I know they're from the alternate reality. I would like to see a story sometime down the road where these two, types clashed, similar to the Daleks.
So you think that these could possibly be our universe Cybermen?
I'm saying there could be one or two in the background, but these are allegedly supposed to be the original from Mondas.
Because I get the impression from what I've read so far, I'll be honest to the viewers and yourself, Dr. G, and Matrix Lord 212 and Mark Shannon and Joker Scribe and
all the gang.
I'll be honest, I haven't been paying attention to spoilers too much. I just think it ruins it. And I've noticed recently in this series people have been anticipating perhaps a little bit too much. Setting themselves up for a fall, if you like. So I think these Cybermen will be actually part of the alternative reality.
If they are part of the alternative reality, then that would mean that Russell T Davies' Cybermen aren't being retired just yet.
That's true. Now, there was one thing which sort of worried me a little bit. I think it's fair to say that some viewers are a little bit sort of jaded by some of the the sort of up and down quality. Gaiman said this: got completely sidetracked by a mad strange romp. Oh dear. Could the Grandmaster have taken his ball off the script, do you think, possibly?
I've got a feeling that just like the sorcerer with Mickey Mouse, he's waving his wand over certain scripts again.
Well, oddly enough, what happened with the script was they actually lost one of the scripts, apparently.
Was that the one that ended up in a taxi cab?
Yeah, Hannah Durham. Yeah. She found it in a taxi in Cardiff. It was marked as being Yves de Leon Allen's copy and had the working title The Last Cyberman. Has since changed, of course. And she found it, and this is the problem. TV writers and TV producers everywhere in 2013 don't lose scripts.
No.
In a day where the internet can post it within literally minutes. Because she found it and she put it on Reddit. Oh dear. Look what a Facebook friend found in a taxi in Cardiff on Monday, wrote Dan Rowling.
We are, of course, in the age of instant news with tweets and Facebook and all the rest of it, so if you want to make a complete klutz of something, it'll be worldwide news within a nanosecond.
Yeah, And that's true actually. Do you think that in today's world that the internet sort of lessens the relevance of certain, like something used to last ages and ages and have more impact? Do you think the internet now sort of makes it really sort of, new 1 second and the next burnt out?
It depends what the subject matter is, Dave, in my opinion.
Yeah, because once upon a time in the old series, even as late as 1989, there was bugger all spoilers like in this day and age.
No, that's true. I mean, even week to week you're getting these 10 teasers, 10 quotes, 10, then you get your 2 preview clips. But 9 times out of 10, the stuff you get in the quotes and the teasers are basically, they don't mean jack. It's just a throwaway line, or it's something on screen that's visible to the viewer's eye. It may seem like something, but it actually isn't.
With the 5 Doctors, or the introduction of the 5th and 6th Doctor and 7th Doctor, it might be lucky to have something in the Radio Times, or the the Sun or Daily Star or whatever, but you certainly wouldn't have lots and lots of Doctor Who or just simply cult websites revealing spoilers. I'm presuming really to the detriment, because that's the point. Everything was far more enjoyable. I mean, you can ignore the spoilers, but let's be honest. Sometimes people either can't resist the temptation, or just out of the blue, it's like not wanting to hear the football scores or something. Some idiot has to shout it at the top of their voice in a pub or something. Guess what I heard earlier on, and your entire enjoyment is really.
It used to be the taxi drivers that gave you all the gossip when it came to the football, wasn't it?
Guess what I found in my taxi the other day? Only a blooming script from Doctor Who. Oh, blimey, I'm going to tell the missus about this when I get home, So this is the cast, according to Wikipedia. Jason Watkins plays Webley. Warwick Davis plays Porridge. Eve D. Leon Allen plays Angie or something. Cassius Kerry Johnson, a boxer, plays Artie.
Oh dear.
Eloise Joseph plays Beauty. Will Merrick plays Brains. Now Will Merrick, I believe, is the one who was in Being Human as the nasty big vampire villain. Calvin Dean plays Ha Ha. Zara Armadi plays Missy. And Aidan Cook plays Cybermen. And of course Nicholas Briggs plays the voice of the Cybermen. Does all sorts of shit, doesn't it? And it's written by Neil Gaiman, directed by Stephen Wolfenstein. And as far as Porridge goes, according to Doctor Who TV, I believe, in one of their spoilers they point out that he is not what he seems.
Interesting.
Precisely what they say is Porridge isn't who he is. Oh, here's another spoiler for you. They're waking from their tomb right now.
Harking back to the Troughton era.
Yeah. There's also this, number 4 of their spoilers. It had been trashed in the Cyber Wars. Because I seem to recall that was mentioned as early as Tomb of the Cybermen, and then mentioned again in Revenge of the Cybermen, where it's suggested that they've been decimated. Really, there's only a few sort of groups flying around in a rusty old bucket of a spaceship. So how many references and important aspects do you think Tomb of the Cybermen will have on this script? Because it's bound to be quite a
I think it's took a lot of its origins from that. I mean, you're going to have the tomb reference, albeit the body also something out of Iron Man. I believe round about the face is supposed to mirror image the mouth from back in that story, the mouth features of the Cyberman.
Yes. Because there's been a few pictures where it's plainly obvious that they're, like it said, coming out of their sort of tombs, so to speak. So presumably, of course, they had that in Earthshock as well, didn't they?
Yes, they did, yeah.
So, do you think that suggests that Cybermen have tombs which are also like survival units, sort of,
chronological, like chambers for like hibernation, or to keep them in suspended animation until they reach certain destinations?
Ah, blimey.
Could be. We don't know for sure.
I've seen a few other pictures. There's a Russell T Davies Cyberman, that's what I call them, looking rusty, behind sitting at a game of chess, it would seem.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just makes a Cyberman like they're almost on the last legs or something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's meant to be an attraction at the so-called theme park, and maybe the thing goes haywire and kicks it all off.
Ah. Well, just like in many of the earlier Cybermen stories, one of the little spoilers and things I've read is that they've been presumed, just like they were in Tomb of the Cybermen, wiped out and gone forever.
Yep, and as always, they resurface.
Yeah, so logically there must be a point in history, just like the Daleks, where they were considered as myths and they had literally been defeated so badly.
Chronologically, what you're looking at was Silver Nemesis.
Oh,
where they were wiped out by McCoy's Doctor. Then it was a case of along comes David Tennant with Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, and they come back in an alternate reality form.
That was very much like what they've done in the comics, of course, rewriting the origins of, say, Spider-Man or Superman.
No, but
like that graphic novel, the one where instead of landing in the US, he lands in Russia, and he becomes like a puppet of Stalin until the end of the comic, where he starts to have doubts about what he's doing and stuff.
Yep.
So you're saying that Silver Nemesis comes after Tomb of the Cybermen?
I'm trying to think what year Tomb of the Cybermen was set.
Interesting.
If you're going chronologically in the Doctor's timeline, that's the case. I'm not too sure in terms of the Cybermen.
Why don't the BBC though? Why doesn't? I'm a bit surprised they haven't reintroduced, our universe Cybermen, because it would be fascinating to see the alternative reality Cybermen, staring at our universe Cybermen.
Well, this may be the prelude to them returning tonight. It might not be all alternative reality ones, especially because they are on an alien planet, supposedly, theme park world.
I'm a bit annoyed really, because they haven't done that with the Daleks, have they, or the Ice Warriors? So why do it with the Cybermen? It just seems a bit odd to me.
I think they're going along the lines of, well, they've reintroduced the Ice Warriors this season, they brought them back from the mid-60s, and they've established that there is another race when they get picked up at the end of the episode. They're probably trying to do that from the original Cybermen from Mondas, eventually.
Interesting. Well, there's another little spoiler, which is interesting. Here it is. We've upgraded ourselves. The next model will be undefeatable, which leads into my next point, which is that perhaps they can run and do all sorts, can't they?
Yep. I don't know if you saw the wee teaser clip, but they move like the frickin' Roadrunner. Meep.
Beep beep.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is the whole point of a Cyberman now is that they've always been, even the Russell T Davies ones, they've always been sort of clunky and slow.
Military driven.
Yeah, but the whole point is they're superhuman strong. If you're attacked by, say, just two of them, you scarper out of there really quickly. And it's the same thing with the Borg as well, you know, sort of not very fast, but in terms of what they can achieve, if you're not careful, you will be like them. But let's face it, everyone, the Borg from Star Trek The Next Generation, they appeared, I believe, at the end of the first series or something like that, and then the really great story, The Best of Both Worlds, that's when they finally decided to attack Starfleet properly. But really, a lot of people, I bet, now and even then, would have thought to themselves, hang on, doesn't this seem a bit of a rip-off of the Cybermen?
Yeah, it does, but I mean, I'm not too familiar with the whole chronological timeline when it comes to The Next Generation. The only Borg story I ever remember was the three-parter when they tried to convert Patrick Stewart. You know, that's the one that always sticks into my mind.
I suppose the only difference, everyone listening, I'm a big sci-fi fan, and the thing is, when you have an interest in sci-fi and cult and fantasy, you can sort of compare the different takes on the same idea.
No, you're absolutely right, Dave. I mean, you can actually see elements of, you know, Cybermen and the Borg. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Doctor Who wasn't the very first people to do, you know, the sort of Cybermen, you know, people replacing the body with electronic parts and stuff. That was done as early as the 1800s, Jules Verne's and all that, those sort of writers, and probably lesser known ones as well. But the difference between the Cybermen and the Borg, to be terribly honest, I think the Borg are way more organised.
Oh yeah.
They've got their entire ships, which are like an ant hill, if you like, in themselves, whereas Cybermen seem to be more nomadic. You know, the Borg actually have a game plan. They're literally building entire Borg cubes which have a purpose within themselves, and they're acting like a beehive mentality. But the Cybermen is more sort of militaristic.
Exactly.
And that's why they get defeated, because they're not as deadly as the Borg. The Borg are absolutely relentless.
That's for sure.
But the Cybermen are just, you know, they like paranoid Marvin the paranoid android. You know what I mean?
We'll give them a wee bit of credit. They're not as bad as Chameleon.
Yeah, just imagine having to have a drink with a depressed Cyberman. It'll be and everything was going fine till the Doctor intervenes.
I'm not. The only thing I'm curious about, just getting back to the original Cybermen from Mondos, if they ever do bring them back, please God, let the weakness of gold be, you know, erased, because that was ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't think they've been using that in the new series, have they?
No, because generally it's been the alternate reality ones.
So alternative reality Cybermen, or an alternative version of the Ice Warriors, wouldn't be necessarily, you know, vulnerable to something in our universe.
Yeah. Well, if they were, why has the gold element not been brought back in before now? We've been back on there, 7.5 years?
Yeah. It became a little, perhaps it wasn't too bad, but it did become a little bit ridiculous, because eventually anything that was made out of gold apparently was like, you know, garlic to a vampire or something. You know, so if you had a golden dildo,
well, if you want to go down that road,
you could stick it in the Cyberman's mouth, and that was
that way inclined. As I say, if they bring them back
at the very start of Dark, you see what looks like an invasion or revenge. Yeah. That was rather nice.
The museum piece.
Perhaps they might have some broken down 10th planet ones, you know, ones that have so broken down that they've gone a bit bonkers type thing. So, what do you, as our closing argument, what do you, Dr. G, have expectation wise of this episode, and what would you give it out as a, you know, pre-broadcast out of 10?
My expectations for this episode, that's the way it goes, is very high. It's Neil Gaiman here. He's not a shabby writer. With all the respect in the world, he's no Stephen Thompson. I will be very surprised if this isn't at least a 9 out of 10. It's got to be a 9 worst case scenario.
What would you give it out of 10?
Out of 10? Prior to the broadcast, because I don't know every aspect of what is coming, I'll give it a 9, and that will be the least I expect it to be upon airing.
Sort of basically on his reputation.
Yes, on the writer's reputation, and basing it on that.
Well, that's the whole point. This, ladies and gentlemen, isn't a story by Neil Blooming Cross.
No.
Who,
or Stephen Thompson, style Sherlock.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, the episode's Journey to the Bottom of the Toilet, we expected that to be one of the crowning 50th anniversary nods. Like I said to Matrix, basically a chance to make the TARDIS a character in itself, which it did. But logic-wise, that just fell apart, the whole tricky business.
Indeed.
So far, I think Hyde and the balls of St. John have not only been good, but I think have some foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the Name of the Doctor. So I think Neil Gaiman will give us a good script. But I'm more curious about the fact that apparently Porridge isn't who he's supposed to be, or seems to be. Maybe the meddling monk, possibly.
It's possible, but if that was to unfold, it would be totally out of left field after all this time, but maybe that's what Moffat's going for.
And there's also an army in this episode, which I just realised. Could they be related to the clerics by any chance?
They could. In fact, you know what this episode reminds me of slightly? It reminds me of the Doctor's daughter, when you had the half against the humans. Two armies.
I see.
Having a wee battle,
So it's going to be either, at the very worst, a poor episode of Scooby-Doo in a haunted mansion type.
Who's that real Cyberman? Yeah.
Or it's going to be sort of on the level of being weird and wonderful, just like the Doctor's wife, sort of kooky characters and unexpected little nods here and there. Because, I'll tell you this and nothing, Dr. G. The Doctor's wife is up there with Blink. Especially the reveal of the TARDISes in that junkyard, which, a junkyard, which is a reference in itself, of course. And then the thought of lots of destroyed, broken TARDISes of all the Time Lords that the house had basically murdered, really. Because Neil Gaiman, everyone, creates Doctor Who which is clever in a new Doctor Who's Adventures, Virgin books type way, but also sort of gives a new spin, doesn't he? It's not like the 1980s shove references down your throat type thing.
The other thing I've noticed about Neil Gaiman is he's not frightened in some capacity in any episode he writes to mention the Time Lords, whereas your guy who has the key to the kingdom right now point blank refuses to do it.
You're sort of referring really to the fact that many people want him to take over
Moffat? No, I'm just saying in general, if you look at Gaiman's episodes compared to Moffat, Gaiman he'll make sure he mentions the Time Lords in some capacity. Moffat? No thank you, can't do that. Won't even bring in the Master.
We'd write the Master well, wouldn't it? I bet. I think it's fair to say though, going back to the idea that Gaiman sort of said he doesn't really want to be a producer.
He just doesn't have the time.
And I think the problem is, unless you're really, really good and you can juggle lots of different things. Russell T Davies didn't have another series in Hollywood movies to write. But that's the thing really with Moffat. He took on Doctor Who and then he took on Sherlock, and he really just sort of, his quality of, his stories, to be fair, haven't been bad. They've always been sort of premiere episodes, haven't they? And then Gaiman and other people sort of like,
in general, the problem with we're not bashing Stephen Moffat as a writer per se. we're bashing him as an organiser. He's just totally unorganised, and as a result, the writing is going down the hole slowly but surely.
He should delegated all those, the whole Mel's thing. I say this all the time. If they just had a few more extra episodes with Mel's as a companion, then she could have regenerated out of the blue, which would have been a surprise, for the Doctor and the kids. But instead, she was in and out, and that's a sign of Moffat, an excellent scriptwriter. But just like any scriptwriter, he can only deal with so much pressure. So I think what he should have done is got Gaiman and others, and Mark Gatiss, and they should have, he should have got those people to, do the whole arrangement of the plot lines, and he could have been, the person suggesting this and that, and just let them flesh it out.
In my opinion, the showrunner should basically have the season premiere, maybe a two-parter in the middle, and the finale. Stephen Moffat's problem is he does that 3 or 4 episodes a year, fine, but his problem comes when he starts waving the magic wand over everybody else's scripts in between. If you leave that on, he'd have more time to do his one a year Sherlock episode or whatever the hell he does, and have a bit more spare time to himself. He's too involved in things that aren't his episodes.
This is a standalone though. I'd presume that the last few stories would have been linked and been part of an overall sort of end of season.
In general, apart from 1 or 2 wee tidbits here and there, they've all been standalone in this series.
So I've just seen the name of a Doctor and the 50th as like the sort of season end, just like Best of Both Worlds was the end of one season, the start of the next, like a 2-parter grand finale.
Well, technically, there's rumour going around that the end of the 50th will lead into the Christmas special, so it could be a trilogy.
I think they're just sort of changing their mind as they go.
Yeah, really. But I just don't see the point of having a standalone Christmas special when you're going to be starting season 8 right after it. You'd as well just tying it all up if you can. It might be nothing major, but there will be something that is unresolved in the 50th that is apparently supposed to lead into the Christmas special.
So you think this episode will be sort of 9-ish? It will be a good.
I will be very disappointed if I don't give it minimum a 9.
And there you go, everyone. This was the preview with myself. That's the way it goes, and Dr. G. So
thanks, Dave. Good to be here.
Please carry on. Thank you, Dr. G. Thank you so much for giving me and the viewers your time.
No problem, sir. Look forward to next time.
So the next bit is the review. So see you soon, and regardless of how you watch this episode of Doctor Who Radio Show, enjoy Nightmare in Silver. And now the review. So before this, there was the preview, which really was myself and Dr. G having a pre-broadcast discussion of what we expect from the episode, writer Neil Gaiman, and also, of course, the revamp of the Cybermen. 2 main things that we talked about, really. The falling quality and attitude of Stephen Moffat, not necessarily his scripts, but the way he's been controlling the programme Doctor Who. And of course his "we don't want a fan fest" comment, which really peeved off a lot of fans, old and new. And the second thing, of course, is that if this had not lived up to expectations, many fans would be very disappointed with Gaiman himself. Luckily, Nightmare in Silver is an absolutely brilliant breath of fresh air. Like a roller coaster ride, it never disappoints. And he's achieved the absolute impossible. He's managed to totally redesign Cybermen in a way that connects to the old Cybermen, but also in a modern day new series type perspective. So the Doctor, Clara, and her 2 children, who she's been a nanny to in present-day Earth, land in a abandoned theme park with just as many strange characters as abandoned rides and exhibits. Somewhere way in the future. The Doctor even has a gold ticket, just like, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that sort of thing. We meet Merrick's character, who, oddly enough, is wearing a sort of Patrick Troughton stove hat. And also Warwick Davis's brains. And also the army regiment. I did get a little bit worried that we were going to have another situation from the kids, just like we had in Journey to the Bottom of the Toilet. Due to, I don't know, just one less than well spoken line of dialogue. But thankfully, the kids aren't that bad at all. They're perfectly fine. They're not irritating. And they don't feature that much, thank God. Because it's not long, really, until they're given a plot device that means they don't speak normally. They get cyberized to a certain extent. So they're taken out of the equation. Which is a good thing, because I think if they'd been speaking throughout the episode, it would have irritated the hell out of people. Like Adric, sort of childish acting, that sort of thing. Not sure about the army. You don't hardly see anything of this army. They seem like a bunch of misfits, to be terribly honest. According to their leader, they were sent to this place as a punishment to keep them out of trouble. So they're like police academy, basically. A bunch of well, not stupid or anything, but they quite clearly aren't fit, particularly for the army. This is way in the future. It's all stems from the aftermath of the cyber wars. The Cybermen have been dead and extinct for 1,000 years. But strangely enough, these soldiers still know plenty about them. Probably it's been handed down. Just like I said to Dr. G in the preview, many stories have mentioned the Cybermen in a past tense, such as Tomb of the Cybermen or Revenge of the Cybermen, in the sense that they used to be a threat to the galaxy, but were defeated by the combined forces of one race and the human race, etc. And now they've been considered, like the Aztecs or Mayans, that sort of thing, as, a defunct civilization. And each episode shows that this isn't necessarily true. In Tomb of the Cybermen, they discover, a Tomb of the Cybermen. But as I said to Dr. G, these tombs are really just survival chambers designed to help Cybermen hibernate, repair themselves, and also repopulate themselves, which is what happens in this episode. And then, of course, in Revenge of the Cybermen, it turns out there's still a few of our Cybermen from our universe surviving, flying around the galaxy. Very clever, very clever. What you're going to see in this episode isn't cybermats like in Tomb or Revenge, but cybermites. Yes, cybermites. Which actually, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Less chunky, less easy to spot, and, nanotechnology almost. They're like silverfish. Silverfish are virtually the same. They're like little creatures that exist in sort of paper stores, I think they do. They like damp places, and that's the same thing as these cybermites. Their whole purpose is to infiltrate and, just sort of, basically find a victim take over the victim, absorb his or her information, and then convert them into a Cyberman. Very creepy, very insecty like. So anyway, like I said, they're in this theme park, and what leads into the title sequence is a fantastic bit where the Doctor, in classic Doctor Who style, would have made a perfect cliffhanger in the old days of Doctor Who. He pulls off the sheet, and there in front of him, to his horror, is an old Russell T Davies rusty Cyberman, ready to play chess with him. And that's how we meet Brains, and then the army. I'm not sure about Warwick Davis's character, and surprisingly his acting. There were times when he was sort of reciting his lines, almost like he was bored, sort of world weary. He looked like he was hungover or something. I mean, it really didn't seem like, I don't know, he didn't seem to be, he didn't seem like he wanted to be there. This is just speculation, but, did he not get along with the cast or something? I don't know. Anyway, there's several Cybermen who must have been bought by the theme park or something, and unknown to the Doctor, well, it's plainly obvious. You got a few scattered Cybermen in this place. Do you really think that they wouldn't be using those Cybermen as a plan to repopulate themselves, which is what they do? And that leads me to the new look Cybermen. Holy mother of sweet, absolutely incredible. The design is, like many people pointed out, more like Iron Man, bizarrely enough. It goes back really to the 60s design, I think, And I'm glad they got rid of those stupid, chunky iPod on legs. I never ever liked those at all. I really disliked those. The voice was all wrong. You will be deleted. It was silly. It sounded, you had those toy Cyberman heads as well. So it was quite obvious they'd been designed, as a possible, kids' toy. These, on the other hand, are scary. The voice is similar to how it used to be, but much more deeper, just like the Dalek's voice was in Evil of the Daleks, sort of echoey. It has that echo resonance, but it has a deep sort of threatening quality. As for the way they move, oh boy, there are some absolute shocks in this. The Cybermen, quite simply, thanks to Neil Gaiman, are like how they used to be, but with more tricks up their sleeves. So just like the haunted house, the haunted ghost train, you never know what's going to pop up next. And just like the Borg, as myself and Dr. G were discussing in the preview, they have the ability to adapt. In Star Trek The Next Generation, what happened with the Borg was, even if they resonated their phasers to actually, get past their, body force shield, within minutes the Borg would be able to actually adapt to the frequency and block it again. And the same thing with this. Even if you have a way of stopping them in their tracks, eventually they can actually upgrade themselves and, in essence, have a vaccine, if you like, electronic vaccine. Once they've encountered the threat, it registered, is passed on to the other Cybermen, presumably, and that's it. The bodies can automatically alter themselves. For instance, they use the moat. They draw them into the moat, and they think that's going to stop the Cyberman, and it does. But then the Cyberman's able to repair himself and then walk through the water. So, for instance, if you had a high energy beam that's supposed to, shock the nervous system of the Cybermen, for instance, maybe eventually they would actually be able to adapt to that and make that completely useless. That sort of thing. And that's what makes them scary, just like the Borg. So something that's been able to help people defeat them and kill off their numbers and save human lives might at some point be, figured out by the Cybermen, and that's it. Game over. But I think the highlight of this episode the most was this. The interaction. Well, I say interaction, everyone, but let's face it wasn't really interaction, was it? It was Matt Smith playing the Doctor and also playing, what should we call him? The Cyber Doctor, yeah. Because the Doctor is taken over at one point by these Cybermites and partially converted into a Cyberman. And what this leads to is a wonderful, wonderful, glorious performance of him interacting with himself and the Cyber Doctor, which fantastically leads to a reference. You actually see the image of all the Doctors. He enters this sort of bizarre sort of mainframe reality where he's literally arguing with the Cyber Doctor. Matt Smith, basically what he does is he gives you that nasty shouty darkness that the 11th Doctor has. So as soon as the Cyber Planner integrates its mind with the Doctor's, you see a Valeyard evil Doctor. What you get, in essence, is what would happen if the 11th Doctor was completely evil. And it's an absolutely glorious performance. It's marvellous. Matt Smith just absolutely kicks the crap out of his character. And it's so devious. There's points when he's incredibly honest with Clara. And then they have a game of chess, which reminds me of The Curse of Fenric, or the first Doctor going up against the Celestial Toymaker, another sort of reference to the old classic series. A proper battle of wills between the Doctor and the villain. The only difference here, it's actually Matt Smith playing both. Whenever Matt Smith gets to play a sort of mad or over-the-top Doctor, like the Ganger, he's an absolute expert. He's able to present it with a deviated, twisted, or exaggerated version of the 11th Doctor. So, like I said, in essence, you're just seeing the 11th Doctor with a little bit less of the gentleness and comical side. And that's the whole point, if he loses this chessboard game, then the Cyber Planner gets all his regenerations and all his memories. And it's brilliant. Oh, that's the scene where you see the past selves. It's no point of this episode, it just presented it and directed it in a way that all the other episodes seriously were lacking. A feeling of confidence, which comes from the beautiful directing, but most importantly, Neil Gaiman's script. That's what Neil Gaiman does. He has confidence. He thinks the lines out, not just the plot. I absolutely loved the nasty 11th Doctor, Cyber Doctor. It was an absolute riot. Matt Smith absolutely proved why he is a flipping brilliant actor. And I'm quite sure he must have enjoyed it big time. Because, there were plenty of times when you could feel pure hate coming from him. There was this exchange from him to Clara where he basically suggests that as soon as the Doctor loses, that's it, she's going to die. He's going to kill her. he's going to turn, you can save yourself, become one of us, that sort of thing. Yeah. Oh, very Valiard. Maybe is simply tapping into the darker points of the Doctor's personality and bringing them as the dominant character in this version of the Doctor. Wow, what a glimpse in what could be. Many people suggested that the Doctor's going to go down a dark path. Will John Hurt's Doctor be revealing more of that? I mean, seriously, I think Matt Smith sometimes gets scripts where he doesn't really... I don't know about you, but whenever the 11th or 10th Doctor have a script where they act angry or less than moral, you get a far more interesting Doctor. When you see more darkness and sharpness, like in Hyde, the psychic said he has a shard of ice in his heart. This is what we're seeing in this episode. Absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. Not entirely sure about the ending though, because yet again Warwick Davis did some more sort of on board of this type acting. An interesting plot twist, I suppose. But I'm not sure how again, just like the kids figuring out at the end of Crimson that the Doctor's an alien and that she's a time traveler. How the hell would they know this? It doesn't make any sense to me. The Cybermen are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Cybermites, a fantastic idea. I absolutely thrilled you when you saw the Cybermen doing their new tricks and stuff. Especially this one bit, which was absolutely genius. The Cyberman has attached its head and tricks the soldiers into thinking it's behind, like a bunch of boxes or something like that. Ha! Oh boy. It was like some... Oh dear. It was very sort of Terminator type thing. A menace and a threat to the good guys, who isn't just simply a lumbering, brainless idiot. But actually a creature that has some intelligence, like in the Predator movies. Some sort of game plan. And it was brilliant. That's what you would do if you're an intelligent Cyberman. Oh boy, what a brilliant episode. That seriously cheered me up after the up and down roller coaster ride of good, bad, mediocre, why did you even bother journey to the bottom of the toilet type scripts. We now have an episode written by the master. Once upon a time it was Terrance Dicks. Now Neil Gaiman, quite simply, is the man who understands Doctor Who inside out. Oh, I'm not joking. That Cyberman detaching their head, sort of bordering on classic Doctor Who, but also with a little bit of sort of horror out of the blue, shocks, but not predictable in a sort of so unpredictable that we predict it, that sort of thing. What a brilliant episode. So a fantastic episode. Brains not entirely convincing. The army didn't necessarily have much character to them, and the kids thankfully weren't involved that much, because I saw from the beginning, if that had been the case, they would have gotten people's nerves. But I think that's the point about Neil Gaiman. He analyses and looks at how logical his scripts are and how everything works together. But again, just like Gatiss, Moffat and Neil Cross, this is his only script. So unlike Moffat, he hasn't been pressured. He's been able to focus and properly write it out, adjusting things here and there. So quite simply, I'm going to say this to all of you. We should say thank you to Neil Gaiman. Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. Thank you. And that's all time we have for on Doctor Who
radio show. Until next time, thank you for watching, and don't forget, the next proper episode is the big one. The Name of the Doctor.